Welcome, my friends, to another YouTube version of the BJJ Brick Podcast. I hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, please subscribe to the channel. So here we go.
Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to episode 193 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. I'm Gary, and I'm here with my friend Byron. How are you, Byron?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Excited about this episode this week. We end of the month, we have a topic episode. And this week, Gary, what are we talking about?
We are going to evaluate our BJJ, your BJJ, everyone's BJJ. So it's all about evaluating your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yep, whip out your BJJ and we'll evaluate it. No, but we're going to have a great time. And really, I think it's important for somebody, if you want to improve, I mean, the way I've improved most of my game is just by going to class and working hard and enjoying the process. But really, if you take a step back and you think about what you're doing and kind of break it down in a more scientific manner, you could make a pretty good improvement pretty quick by just being more analytical about what you're doing and why and how your game fits.
Like you always say, Byron, we're trying to flatten our learning curve, trying to make it easier to get from point A to point B. And speaking of having good times, let me tell you about how we can not spam your box. Basically what I'm talking about is get on our email list. We promise we won't spam your inbox. We will just send you show notes each and every week, and that way you'll never miss a show. What are you laughing at, Byron?
Okay, we just recorded. This is our second attempt at recording an intro here. So Gary said something about we'll never spam your box. And then we both kind of lost control and started laughing about the way that sounded. And we decided to start over again and get another run. Hey, check out, maybe I'll put it in the blooper reel about our first attempted fail. But, and then you say it again.
Yes, but I thought it would go great with, the way we redid it. So yeah. I figured I'd throw it in there and not laugh. But no, you had to spoil it.
That went great. Well, I'm actually just giving a teaser for the blooper reel towards the end of the show, or at the end of the show.
Speaking of teaser, we promise not to spam your box.
There you go. Gary, I've got some great news. We have a new, an actual audiobook. So we have our, your first year of BJJ audiobook. It's $11.99. It's about 2.5 hours long. I have another audiobook that I finally got together and made. I've been working on this for like 9 months and kind of outlining it and recording little sections of it at a time. It's called 6 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Training Games. And it's a thing that I've used in my training that's really helped me a lot. It's $5.99. It's a little over an hour long. And there are 6 games in here that you actually can play while you're rolling. To where you have a focus or you have something in particular you're working on. One method on here is called ragdoll, and some people have probably heard of this and tried it before, is you just kind of relax. And yeah, you're going to get beat. If you get points, you're going to get totally destroyed. But really, it puts you in a lot of really bad situations. So you play ragdoll, you relax, and you let your opponents do these attacks, and you defend the attacks, but you don't so much defend the positions and the bad spots you're in. So it really helps you get your defenses up because, honestly, Gary, how many times are you stuck in a deep armbar in a given hour of rolling? Probably not that many times. But if you play ragdoll, you'll be busting out of armbars all the time. You have to really feel the timing of the technique, and you have to really feel when is it too late to escape or when can I escape? And with the ragdoll game, and it's just one of the 6 that are on here, I want you to use like very minimal energy and just kind of escape just when it's time and very technically. And that's just one game, and I get into it a lot deeper than I just did now, but that's just a little example of what's on here. Just games you could play while you're grappling to help your jiu-jitsu get better and to help you enjoy the process and know that every time you roll, it's not just a death match. You can actually work on something in particular, and these games will help do that.
Yeah, definitely. We're here to make our game a little bit better, and something like you said right there, Ragdoll. It's definitely going to help. Your escapes get better, and as our escapes get better, our overall game's going to get better. So definitely check it out. Like Byron said, it's the first week it's out, a little over an hour for only $5.99.
Yeah, I wrote it down here. 6 BJJ training games to play while rolling to get better, faster, develop your team, discover your unique game, and have more fun. So it's by yours truly. If you're expecting a better voice, it's not going to be on there. It's just going to be me. And
you can turn the sound down.
Yeah, you can turn it to mute, and you could just imagine what it's going to be on there.
Yeah, you can make your own audio with it.
There you go. That's good to hear, Gary. I didn't realize that was a possibility.
Yeah. Well, speaking of what you just talked about, the 6 games for BJJ, I wish that went out. We had that before I went to prison, because I'm sitting there thinking, and you were talking about Ragdoll, and you say you just relax, you kind of go to a happy place. And I wish I would have known about that, before I got put in a jail cell. It took me, 7 or 8 months till I learned that. But, it would have definitely helped me. So there's other uses for it also.
Yeah, and that's good, Gary. Thinking about your prison days, if you have a long sentence like Gary had, he just got out of prison just a few days ago, and he's been in there since he was a juvenile. If you have a long sentence like that, or maybe a difficult task ahead of you, like many days or years of a job that might be hard, or just a challenge, I think that some of those challenges like that are best taken one day at a time. So maybe it's personal problems, or maybe it's work. It just seems like, man, I don't want to do this job for another 5 years, whatever. And maybe that's the right thing is to change. But this is the quote for today. It's called "Just for Today," and it's not really a quote, but it's kind of like, I don't know if I would call it a little poem, but it's more of a collection of things. And I'll read a few of them here, but there's 10 of them, and I'm not going to read them all because nobody wants to hear me read that long. But just for today, I will try to live through this day only and not tackle my whole life problem at once. I can do some things for 12 hours that would appall me if I had to keep them up for a lifetime. So that one is just like, just tackle today. It seems so crazy if you have a whole bunch of stuff in front of you and that, I can't do it. But actually, what's in front of you today, and do those things. Another one, just for today, I will adjust myself to what is and not try to adjust everything to my own desire. I will take my family, business, and my luck as they come and fit them to myself. So that one's kind of saying you can't change everything. You have to be adaptable and change some things to change yourself a little bit to get through the day. One more here, and there, like I said, there's 10 of them, and I might read another one, but this one, just for today, I will take care of my body. I will exercise and care for it, nourish it, and not abuse or neglect it, so that I can be the perfect machine for my will. Just for today. Like, so if you're on a diet and you're thinking I'm going to lose 50 pounds, and let's say you've lost 20, and it just seems like 30 more pounds is so far away. Just for today, you're going to take care of your body, you're going to treat it right, you're going to exercise, you're going to eat healthy, those sort of things. So I think that's a good way. We all talk about having fun, and that's one great benefit of jiu-jitsu is that it's enjoyable. But a lot of things we do, we have to kind of gut out and get through them. And just for today, get through it. Don't try to focus on the huge goal at hand or the huge task at hand.
When you were talking about the second one, it just made me start thinking about jiu-jitsu. You started talking about being adaptable, and roll with the punches. It's like you can't change the day, and it made me think of being on the mat. I have to be adaptable. I may, want to have top position against Byron, but he's got a very good takedown defense, very good sprawl, and a very good go behind, and I cannot get top position. I'm going to have to be adaptable, and work from a position that I'm in. I'm not always going to have the position I want. And then, the second part, you're always saying, don't neglect your body. It has a lot to do with jiu-jitsu, but I can definitely tell you, Byron does not neglect his body.
Well, thanks, Gary. I don't know why that was so funny, but yeah, I think you're kind of messing with me there.
Oh, no, I would not do that.
Gary's the one that works out all the time. But I like how you bring
had
into...
Had nothing to do with working out, Byron.
I like how you're talking about bringing it into jiu-jitsu. So maybe not just for today, just for this role, I'm going to give my best, all my effort, and and not, get lazy towards the end of the roll or not give up when I'm in a bad position just for this roll. And, like, let's say you're doing open mat and you're there for an hour and it just seems like, man, I have 30 minutes to go. I'm already exhausted. The next roll. Just for this roll, I'm going to do my absolute best. And I'm not going to worry about the next roll. Just for this roll, I'm going to do my best. And I think that's something that you can kind of make. Oh, there's a whole bunch of... I'm going to read one more because I like it. I think Gary will get a kick out of this one as well. Just for today, I will be happy. I will assume what Abraham Lincoln said to be true, that most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. Happiness is from within. It's not a matter of externals. So decide to be happy, and that's really what makes you a happy person. It doesn't really... externals can affect that to a small degree, but if you're a happy person, you could have a pretty rough life and still be a happy person, right, Gary?
Yep. I totally agree with that. I think, you make yourself happy. We can think about everything and, kind of like that first one you were saying, think about what's going to happen long term, and instead of just dealing with what's right in front of us and, just smiling and trying to make the world a better place. And I go back to, the first time you interviewed Bernardo Faria, and I just remember you just telling me, it's like, man, the guy's just so happy. He's like, you can hear it through his, didn't even meet him in person. You're interviewing him over the phone. And I just remember, that your attitude changed, like just listen to your voice talking about, how much of a positive and happy person he is. It made you that way. And then it rubbed off on me. And I'm telling you, just by being a happy, positive person, you're going to affect a ton of people. And I guarantee your day's going to be a lot better.
Yeah, Gary Bernardo's such a fun guy to be around. And that does, that's what you want to be around. People who are happy and really make up your mind to be happy regardless of what's going on. And then put that smile on your face, and before you know it, you'll actually be happy and you'll feel good about your day. There's a bunch of these. I'll put a link to the rest of them. There's 10 of them, and some of them have like sub points. But if you're having a hard time with a large task at hand, and you feel like, man, I just, like when Gary was in prison for so many years, don't think about your entire sentence, Gary. Think about today. Just for today, I'm not going to get cornered in the shower. Just for today, I'm going to lift weights and get stronger. Those sort of things, right, Gary?
Yeah, definitely. That's smart. Not get cornered in the shower, lift weights to get bigger, to protect yourself, and make sure you always have money or a shank in your prison wallet. It's always a good idea to do all that.
All right, Gary, that wraps up the quote. And we have a topic today, how to evaluate your BJJ, and then also kind of what to do with that information once you've actually done it. And I think, in this game, sometimes, the people who are getting, and it's great, you get a stripe on a kind of a semi-regular basis. You really feel like, yeah, I'm getting better. You got, blue belt, 1 stripe. Okay, you go a little while. Blue belt, 2 stripes. All right, then you go. But you may not be in the situation, and that's perfectly fine. But it does pay to actually evaluate your game. And so your coach may not really be evaluating your game as they give you stripes and belts. They may just be showing you the level you're at. And is there a difference there, Gary?
Yes.
Thanks, Gary. What would be the difference between taking a look at your game and trying to figure out and evaluate what the keys to your game versus, just getting a new belt promotion?
A new belt promotion is always great. Shows you, you've been dedicated, you've put time in, your instructor sees that you're improving and getting better. So you got somebody, who knows and seeing you put the time in and get better. But, actually evaluating yourself, sitting back and, hey, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my opportunities? What are my threats? You're going to see it. You're taking a proactive step to make yourself better by, figuring stuff out. By making yourself better, you may get promoted quicker. That may or may not be true. You may win, more matches, competition style. And you may just feel that you've gotten a little bit better, rolling with your teammates too. So you can kind of judge a little bit that way, just by evaluating yourself.
Yeah, I think when your coach gives you a new belt or a stripe or even just a pat on the back, hey, you did good today, that's more of a recognizing what you're doing as far as you're making progress. You're now, today you're a blue belt now, congratulations. That's really saying, when I evaluate you and I look at you, you're on the same step on this ladder as the other blue belts. And so I want to put you there. But when you evaluate your own game, I think it's a little bit more in depth because, no one's really more in charge of your own progress than you. You could have a great coach, but really if none of us are going have a team of coaches that, like an Olympic athlete might have, millions of dollars and a bunch of sponsorship and all this stuff. And they have their own dietitian who just cooks for them and all this. And it's somebody who helps them wake up and do yoga first thing in the morning and all those things. Like, that's really nobody in the jiu-jitsu world. So the person who is most in charge of your own training and development is you. So being able to evaluate your own game to figure out what you need to be doing and that sort of thing is pretty important. And sure, there are great coaches who could say, hey, you're doing these things great, and if you did this, you're going to be, you'll take your competition game up a level, or you'll take your game to the next step, and that's a great thing. But really, the person who is constantly worried about your game and constantly thinking about how could you improve is you. So let's evaluate your game today.
Yeah, and that's what makes jiu-jitsu so great. I mean, it doesn't matter what color belt you have. Your instructor says you're on the level with these people, and says you've been putting in the time and deserve this or that belt. But it's really up to you to improve. You can show up every day. You can have the best instructor, and if you don't, try to improve, you're probably not. That's what's so cool about this sport. I mean, like you said, and, one thing I kind of disagreed with a little bit there that you said, you were talking about how nobody has, a yoga instructor, a dietitian. But, the crazy thing, what I like about jiu-jitsu is you go into any given school and there are a hodgepodge of people, a melting pot of, different individuals who have different skills, who have different jobs. And it seems like every gym I've been into has a guy who's a personal trainer, has a guy who, is a massage therapist, or, I can't really necessarily say that, but it just seems like you have a hodgepodge of a lot of people with, fitness related skills, yoga instructors, personal trainers, paramedics, doctors. And, I just find myself picking these people's brains. I kind of almost figure like I have a whole wellness store, under one roof. I've got, my coach teaching me jiu-jitsu. I've got my teammates teaching me jiu-jitsu, but I have one particular teammate who's giving me advice on how to rehab my hamstring. I got another person who's giving me advice on, how to eat properly to burn body fat. I've got another guy who's teaching me how to, become stronger, through weightlifting. And I just, that's the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is I've just met so many people who've helped me through my journey, not just at jiu-jitsu, but, things that are going to make me a stronger, healthier, more robust, happy individual.
That's an interesting way to look at that, and you definitely should be utilizing the talents of your team to help you. And I think that's something that's great. Where we're training Gary, we've got lots of great, talented, and smart teammates that help us out. But kind of what I was saying, like, if you play in the NFL and you're a quarterback and you're pretty good, who would this be? Who would be a decent quarterback in the NFL, Gary? Help me out here, buddy.
Who would myself?
Gary? You're pretty good at quarterback NFL guy?
No, I mean, I would like to be. But we'll go with Tom Brady.
Okay, Mr. Thomas Brady. And he probably has somebody that helps him prepare his meals. I mean, literally
Giselle.
A person.
Probably Giselle.
And then he probably has somebody who helps him stretch and somebody who tells him how to lift weights a certain way. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too deep into this. But
no, you're right. You're right.
But so you could even say Tom Brady, I mean, he may not even be in charge of his own training and development. That might be past what he's doing. He might just be the person doing the actual work. But you are in charge of your, it's up to you, Gary, to be interested in what you're eating and get the advice about proper foods or how to stretch or lift weights and that sort of thing. It's up to you. And if you just want to train and do your normal thing, that's perfectly fine. But that's what you're deciding to do. If you're like Gary, and probably I'm guessing you're going to go work out after this conversation here, that's a decision you're making, and it's going to be beneficial in the long run. So I don't know. Or I think the jiu-jitsu world, there's just not enough money to have people have like a team of coaches helping one person. It's still going to be you in charge of your own game.
Yeah, but I still think that's the same way with Tom Brady. I mean, even though he has a team of coaches and, basically has everything he needs to succeed, it's still up to him. I mean, there's a lot of people who are great athletes and never made it anywhere just because they didn't have that, work ethic or is it, even with the work ethic, is it really just that maybe it didn't mean that much to you?
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, I started thinking about it just now. We call people these bums, that had so much talent and they didn't make it. Are they really a bum? I mean, why are you a bum? Maybe it's just not something they enjoyed doing. Just because somebody's really, really good at something, maybe they don't enjoy doing it. Maybe that's not what they want to do. But I really think, like what you said, to start all this over, it is all up to you, all up to me to get better. I mean, I can't rely on Byron to call me up every day and say, hey, Gary, you need to train, you need to get better. It's got to be up to me. It's if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And I kind of go back to what Byron said. I want to be happy. We were talking about, try to be happy each day. And I'm happy when I'm training jiu-jitsu. It's something that makes me happy. And I guess if I'm happy, hopefully I'll be getting better.
There you go. So, Gary, let's move on to the actual thing about evaluating your game. So I think one of the big things you probably should do pretty early on is ask yourself, what are your strengths? And you could ask that of yourself. You could ask your coach. You could ask your teammates. But you got to figure out what you're good at. And Gary, how would you figure out on yourself, like, what is Gary good at? How would you evaluate that?
Well, first of all, you're going to have your teammates, telling you, man, you're really strong, or your cardio is insane, or, man, you tap me out with a Kimura every single time. And, you're going to see it yourself if you're taking notes, what am I really good at? Or you're going to hear it from your teammates and or your coach, what your strength is. Yeah.
As a teammate, it's a lot of times easier, or a coach, easier to point out, like, I'll be rolling with somebody who's a blue belt or purple belt, and they're definitely a very skilled and talented grappler, but I'll be rolling with them, and I won't really be too worried about anything in particular. And then they get in a position where they do an over-under pass or a deep half sweep or something, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. I'm like, and so usually I'll tell them, dude, that was great. Your deep half sweep was awesome. Keep doing that. Do that more. I want you to put more energy and effort and put yourself there as much as you can, because it's just something that you recognize as a teammate is like, okay, his game is pretty good, and I'm able to just kind of hang with it. But when he gets to this point in the game, or this part of the match where this position is happening, he or she is dominating that, and I think it's important to let your teammates know that. And they'll do the same to you. They'll tell you, man, that guard pass was awesome, and you did it to me 3 times, and there's nothing I can do about it any of those 3 times. And yeah, you'll see it in yourself, but it's good to hear from your teammates and to get that, because sometimes with when you're rolling, or you may not be rolling super hard, and somebody, a white belt will pass my guard, and I won't think anything of it, and I don't know if they do or not, but that guard pass wouldn't have worked if I was fighting super hard, typically. But if I'm working a little harder and they still pass my guard, I'm going to tell them, like, call attention to that. Actually, that was a really good guard pass, and that was great. I want you to keep doing that. And there's a difference there, and they may not feel the difference from me as far as which one is giving full resistance, but I really like to point out on people when something worked really well, and and I think that's important to do as a teammate.
Yeah, it's definitely important to do as a teammate. It's going to, first of all, have a lasting effect on that person you just told it to. You never know. That person could be getting upset with jiu-jitsu, not feeling like they're doing really well. And then all of a sudden, just to hear something like that is, hey, I was actually thinking of quitting, but man, now I just had, such a warm, fuzzy moment that I'm going to keep with it. So any little thing you do, you never know what's been going through that head. So don't be afraid to, compliment and tell your training partners how great they're doing in situations. It's going to, first of all, it's going to help them evaluate their game, but, just little things. It's going to make them happy. I know we talk about this all the time, but I just think you need to be happy.
Yeah, Gary, put a smile on your face, and like Abraham Lincoln said, you're basically as happy as you decide to be, and there you go.
Hey, that's a good quote.
We should be the Happiness Jiu-Jitsu podcast.
Yeah. Well, we talked about, what are your strengths? Next thing we have to ask, Byron, what are your weaknesses?
Man, I've got a list of weaknesses that is quite long, Gary. I'm kind of a sucker for the Kimura. I get hit with a lot of sweeps. Let's see. Gary always gives me a hard time with his half guard.
Yeah, you know what I really like right there is I think my strength is my Kimura, and Byron says his weakness is a Kimura. So basically what he's doing is psychological warfare.
Yes,
he's
true.
downplaying, my Kimura by saying that's his weakness. So, thank you, Byron. Way to just make me frustrated.
Yeah, if I was an average grappler, I would bust out of a lot more Kimuras. That's for sure. And the person that Kimuras me the most is talking to me right now. What are your weaknesses? So, and this could be a position, or it could be getting caught in a particular submission. I think it's probably a wiser thing to look at the positions. If Gary's constantly Kimura-ing me, that's a weird thing to say with the ing on the end of that. If I'm constantly getting caught in Kimuras, I need to look at where is this from? Is Gary passing my guard, going to side, getting the forearm and putting a Kimura on there, or is he doing a Kimura as I try to pass his guard? And those are just two options if Gary's got Kimuras from all over the place. But maybe I'm just getting Kimura as I try to pass his guard, and I should look at what guard passes am I doing that get me caught in a Kimura, and how could I either make that guard pass, because really there aren't guard passes that you learn and develop in a structured way that should lead you right into a Kimura. That's why they're guard passes, because if you do them properly, you should be pretty safe. If you get out of the range of doing the proper guard pass, you're going to get caught in all kinds of trouble, like the over-under pass. You shouldn't be getting triangled as you go over-under. If you're getting triangled, you're doing something wrong with that. And so you need to evaluate, is this the right pass for me? Yes or no? And then if yes, most of the time I can pass guards, no problem. But when I try to pass Gary's, he gets me the Kimura. Okay, so there's a problem with my guard pass. How could I make it a better guard pass, keep the same style of passing, keep the same idea, but obviously I'm missing something. How could I change that to where I don't get Kimura'd by a guy like Gary, who's got a pretty decent Kimura from what I hear?
Well, I was kind of in the same boat. You really started, going crazy with that Hingertine after, watching Josh Hingertine's DVD. By the way, check it out on our YouTube page. Byron reviewed it. I'm a really strong underhook player, and that played right into Byron's game. I'm aggressive with my underhook. I come, forward with an underhook, and for a couple of weeks I was just getting caught in it left and right, and I couldn't figure it out. And basically what I did is, I was like, hey, what am I doing? And I kind of did what Byron said, evaluate. Why am I getting caught in this? I really like my underhook. Do I have to abandon it? And, I'm not going to abandon it. It's something I really like. I'm just going to have to, do things a little bit differently in that situation. And, I had to tailor my game a little bit. I mean, I still run into it, but not every single time like I was, for the first couple of weeks. It's, we got to find out what our weaknesses are and figure out, why it's our weakness and try to avoid it, or find another path, to the end. Another
sign that's your weakness is that more than one person. So, Gary's got a really nice Kimura. I have a pretty nice arm and guillotine style like Josh Hinger, and not anything like his, but a similar style that what he does. And, if Gary Kimura's you may not have a really weak Kimura defense. It might be Gary. You run into his BJJ brick, something that that he's really worked a lot on, and it's really like a big advantage for him to have that. But you might be running into the average Kimura and getting caught with that too. So is everybody doing the Kimura to you? Are you getting caught in guillotines every time you roll? Then you got a problem fundamentally with what you're doing. If it's just a specialist or a technique that they're really good at, you still have to tighten up that area because it's still a problem. But it may not be as big of a weakness as you thought or as you experienced. Because if you roll with Gary every time, if I roll with Gary every third time of my rolls, I would think, I'm constantly getting Kimura. It's my problem. Yeah, it's my problem. I'm doing something wrong. But most people can't Kimura me like Gary can.
Why, thank you, Byron.
He's a very special guy.
Thank you. That really made me feel good.
Well, now you're smiling. Look at this guy. He's all happy about it.
Okay, you made up for getting on me earlier. So, but, so the next thing we got to ask, what moves do you enjoy the most? But then you have to say, what moves do you have success with? I mean, just because, let's go with Byron. Byron talks about, I know Byron has a good triangle, but I also know that Byron does run into some back issues. Byron's not a young spring chicken anymore. I mean, most of you guys have seen his picture and seen his eyes, drooping and, skin, just hanging off his body and he's not a spring chicken. But what happens sometimes is, while he's going for his triangle, he gets stacked. And what happens when he gets stacked? His vertebrae get smashed. His spine gets put in different positions, and he's had some back issues due to that. So he's trying to, stay away from triangles, not do them as much. And, I know he enjoys them, but, does he have the most success with it? Is it, it's taking him off the mat. So, I mean, it's kind of like, let's say you like to stab yourself in the stomach with a 12-inch buck knife. And, I mean, some people may enjoy that, but, I mean, is it going to be beneficial to you in the long run?
Wow, that's quite the example there, and I haven't really met that person that enjoys it. Interesting with the example of me. Yeah, I used to love the triangle choke. That was my thing, and if I was going to tap out somebody who was a belt rank above me, it was going to be with a triangle choke, and I could pretty confidently say that if I'm going to tap this person out, it's going to have to be triangle, because that's the only thing that I could reach up a belt rank or two with. As a black belt, or as any belt level, really, occasionally doing a triangle, I would get stacked. So let's say 1 out of every 10 times I do a triangle, I get stacked. And 1 out of those 10 times getting stacked, my back would hurt. And then 1 out of every 5 of those, my back hurt. It actually carried on for a few days. And so I decided, it's not worth it. But I think with the idea of what do you enjoy the most versus what do you have the most success with, I think if you really enjoy something and you're still having a tough time having success with it, you need to look at maybe why that is, because I think that having joy in a technique really is a big catalyst for doing that technique well. You're thinking about it a lot. You're interested in it. You're maybe doing more research. You're trying it anytime you can. You're talking about it. You're really interested in that technique. And that's a good thing to look at. Like, I mean, this is a fun part of jiu-jitsu, doing this. This is really fun. Versus, yeah, I could do, a waiter sweep to basically anybody who does this, who stands up, or, I could do a get on anybody's back whose arm I could halfway drag across their body, something like that. It may not be as fun as some other techniques. And so I think really looking at what's fun versus what you always have success with, I think looking at the category of what's fun may be a good peek at like what you might be developing next and what you want to have a lot of success with, because it's important. Like Gary says, having fun is a big deal. Enjoying something and thinking like that move is awesome. That attitude towards the technique is just going to, having that interest is going to help you get better at it.
I never really thought about that, Byron. Something that you have fun with, a move. And I was just thinking about when you were talking about that, I was thinking about, earlier today after jiu-jitsu, I was hanging out in the living room floor with my daughter and we're petting our dog. And, my daughter's arm was coming away from her body. And every time her arm would come away from her body to pet the dog, I would Kimura it. And, we'd make jokes and I'd be like, hey, you can't let your arm, come away from your body. You're leaving your arm out. And my daughter's looking at me like I'm crazy. But, it's a move I enjoy. It's a move I have fun with. And so it made me start thinking about whenever I'm wrestling around with my kids, I really always am going for a Kimura, even with my kids. So I guess it's something I really enjoy.
When you lock up that Kimura, Gary, does it kind of like feel like everything's locked into place and it feels right and good? Like that's kind of what when you've explored a technique and you have a good amount of knowledge about it and you're doing it right, it feels really good. Like I'm doing this right. This is like even on a little kid's arm, like Gary's probably best at finishing her. When you get it perfect and the integrity of the arm starts to fail, it is like, man, this is a perfect technique. I'm really doing it good.
Yeah, it's just like a hot fudge sundae, Byron.
How is it like a hot fudge sundae, Gary?
It's just perfect.
All right.
Okay.
So
another thing.
Yeah, that being said, we're going to mention coming up towards the end of the show that if you're in Wichita, we'd love to train with you, and we're hopefully having some people come in to train. We've got a few emails back and forth. But also, if you want to have a hot fudge Sunday with Gary, he's always up for that.
Definitely.
Well, that's good. Something that's important with when you evaluate your BJJ, also look at what are your goals, and then kind of compare that to what you're finding out in your evaluations. Do you want to compete? Is your main goal, physical fitness? Is it self-defense? Is a big goal of yours to just build a knowledge of jiu-jitsu? Are you trying to build BJJ bricks out there? What are you doing, Gary? What are your goals out there, my man?
Yeah, and that's the thing that's going to change too. I know when I started this game at a relatively young 35, I had different goals than I do
so
today.
Old.
Yep. But what it is, my game has changed. When I was younger, I wanted to, win this, win that. I was all about winning. I was all about, learning more and more techniques. And I evaluated myself, if I tap somebody out or not. That's, I had a little different mentality. And I'm telling you today, my goal right now, it really is just to have fun, stay healthy and, learn a little bit. And, that's how I grade myself today. I don't have as hard of rolls as I used to, but it doesn't mean I'm not as good as I used to. I personally think I'm better. I think it has to do with my enjoyment level. I don't know if my, hard term 120% roll like I'm a wounded cougar. I can do it as long as I could have, a few years ago, because I don't put myself at that level like I used to. But I do feel I'm better. My goals have changed and they will change again. And it's all about what your goals are and evaluating how you're doing. And you're going to have short-term goals. You're going to have long-term goals. You're going to have goals of what you want to do each practice. You're going to have goals, what you want to do each month. You're going to check those off. And, your goal, I remember we talked to Bernardo Faria. He wanted to win. Was it the Worlds, Byron?
He wanted to win the absolute at the Worlds.
Yeah, the absolute at the Worlds, and that was one of his goals. I bet he had it posted somewhere, and I bet, after he did it, he checked it off, so, you want to make goals, they want to be tough goals, but, you want to make them attainable. Like my goal, I don't want to make a goal that, hey, I'm going to win the World's absolute, because basically I have no chance. The only chance I would have is if everybody got hurt in their regular weight class and couldn't make the absolute. Yeah. That would be my only chance.
So we got a plan. We got to make that happen. So it kind of reminds me of Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding at the Olympic skating. You got to injure your opponent before the match even starts, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, that was very smart by Tanya Harding.
I want to help you make your goals there, but I'm thinking about it wasn't that long ago, several months back. You were really working on footlocks, and man, I deal decently with footlocks, and I get out of a lot of them, and I do a few occasionally. But it seemed like for a while there, and the only reason why it was a while because you quit doing so many of them is I couldn't get out of your footlock. I would go from one to the other and then get caught, and I get out of one and go to another one, get out of another one, and get caught in one. It's like Gary has changed what he's doing with his footlocks, and I'm not really doing too good with that. He's really getting me with it. But that must have been a goal that you had, is I'm going to work on my footlocks, I'm going to attack the feet, and, poor old Byron, he's worried about his Kimura, he's worried about his shoulder, and really, my feet are where the target is, and I have no idea about that happening.
Yeah, but you want to know the crazy thing is, I probably spent a year, just going for footlocks and nothing else. That was my big thing. And I wasn't as more into the footlock as I was in control. I personally don't feel you can finish a move unless you got very good control. So I was more worried with control than I was finishing a footlock. But it's crazy. I mean, everybody knows me for my Kimura and footlock game. But, my Kimura is what all the old school people know me for. So I'm working on footlocks, and I think I'm getting a lot better at those. But then all of a sudden, I hate to say it, but I kind of got bored with footlocks. And I went right back to Kimuras. And I had people like, man, how come you're going back to working on Kimuras? I don't know. I just, it goes back to what you said a couple minutes ago. It's what I enjoy the most. I don't think I need I can't say I don't think I need it. It'd be great to know every possible move and be a master at every move. But I'm that guy. I like to, I know moves, but I like to, my bread and butter I have a couple different moves that I, just try to get really, really good at.
Yeah. So you got a little bored with the footlocks and, getting bored with anything is understandable. And you went back to something that you were already pretty good at, but you wanted to get better at with, you like that. You wanted to get better with, but I would say if, Gary, big competition coming up in a month, I would think it'd be really smart to bring those footlocks back because you're good at them. And so just to say, I don't care if it's boring. I've got a different goal of competing. And in order for me to have my best game, I'm bringing the footlocks back.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And just like all of a sudden your goal changed, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Another consideration for trying to figure out, what you're good at and what you need to work on is the way you feel about something. And I have written down here because I've always been fairly confident with my ability to pass the guard at all levels. And that's ridiculous saying that now. As a blue belt, I was a terrible guard passer. But, now as a black belt, compared to me a year ago, I'm a way better passer than I was a year ago. But the thing is, I know that now my guy in the future is going to be way better than today. So it's just all relative in how you feel about something. So I might have felt like I was a good guard passer. That might have been a little bit of a false sense of confidence. Half the time I got swept. That's not a very good way to pass the guard, or half the time Gary Kimura me. So if I can get that to be less. Also, people, it goes the other way. You feel like sometimes as somebody who's been training for a while, I get frustrated with the way my game is going. It doesn't mean it's not going in the proper way. It just means I'm being frustrated with something that's a smaller detail, or I'm running into another person who is significantly better than me at something, and it feels like, man, so I've been passing people's guards since I've been training. I've been trying to. That's jiu-jitsu. Suddenly I come into this guy named Gary who I just met today, and I can't pass his guard. Did my guard passing actually go down a step? No. It's just it's hard to compare with other people that are not you, and you can't really roll with yourself. So sometimes the way you feel about something may not actually reflect on what you're doing. If everybody at your gym is doing leg drags, it's going to be pretty hard to leg drag somebody because their defenses are high. But if you walk into a gym where everybody is doing the knee cut and nobody's doing leg drag, leg drag city. Like, it's not going to be that big of a deal to leg drag somebody because it's a different thing. So it's just, sometimes you might lose confidence in something that is actually still pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like what you said there, leg drag city. I bet that would bring a smile to your face. But, the people you train with, they know your game. If you're a really good leg dragger like Byron, it may not work, with all his training partners, but he goes into a new place and, like you said, leg drag city. And the guy that they use a knee cut pass there, and he's really good at defending knee cut passes, but you walk into his gym, I mean, does it really mean, he had a tough day? It's just, he's going against something else. And the good thing about that is it's going to put him in a different position, and he's going to have to work on, defending against the leg drag pass. Just going to make his game better if he takes the time and evaluates himself. And otherwise you can just get down and, not even worry about it. But, if you want to get better, you need to evaluate, why is he beating me with that leg drag pass? What do I need to do to counter it, to get better, to not get put in that position?
Gary, is it a good idea or a bad idea or healthy or unhealthy? I don't know what the proper way to frame this, but to evaluate yourself or compare yourself to your teammates?
I think everybody does. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to people say it's just training, but everybody really knows how they do against this guy or that guy, and you can see it. As soon as open mat comes, you can see the people who stay away from certain people. You don't want to roll with this guy because he beats me all the time, or this guy's really good. And I really don't think it's great to compare yourself to teammates. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different goals in life. You got the young 22-year-old guy who wants to be a world's champion, and you've got somebody who's 45-year-old who just wants to, get his kids through college. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of comparing myself to teammates, and I don't think it's the greatest idea. But I do think that we all do it, including myself.
I think one way you could do it and actually have some benefit from that is, let's just say I can't pass Gary's guard. Maybe in a 10-minute time period, I passed it once and he got it right back. And so I go home and I study guard passes, and I team up with some people and I talk about Gary and how to pass his guard and what I'm doing wrong and why I'm getting Kimura and all this stuff. And then I go back and I actually pass your guard 3 times in a 10-minute span.
Byron, I was hurt.
Yeah, that does hurt.
I was hurt that day. No, I was hurt.
Oh, man. Dang.
Yeah, I had a broken leg.
Back to the idea of injure your opponent before the actual match and you do way better. No, but I didn't realize that you had a broken leg that day. Man, that kind of takes some wind out of my sail.
Yeah.
But that sort of comparison where when you run into a problem with the same teammate every time, and then you could get to where that problem doesn't occur anymore, or like I've never got Gary in omoplata. I don't think I have, but maybe I have a long time ago.
Oh, I bet you have.
But if that's something I'm trying to do and I can't get it, and then I go and I work on my omoplata, keep working, and then I hit him with it, that's real progress. That's a guy who is hard to omoplata, and I got it. It's different than if I just if I'm working on my stuff with people who are new and they have no idea what I'm doing. It's hard to evaluate if I'm actually doing anything better or right or making improvements. But if somebody gives you a tough time in a certain area, or they're hard to finish with a certain thing, and you start to get it, that's to me is a way you could compare yourself with a teammate. And it's almost comparing the old you with the new you with the same measuring stick, which is your teammate.
Yeah, I do like that point you made. That's I do that a lot. I get in positions where I'm really having trouble with somebody, and then all of a sudden, I pass that guard, or I get myself into a better position, and which is something that never happened before, and I know I'm getting better. So yeah, that is a good point right there, Byron. What would you say about? And I hear this a lot. Comparing yourself, to a younger you. I think about, we just talked a minute ago that I started at 35 and I'm 50 now. And, let's say take my 40-year-old self. I've been rolling for 5 years. 5 years, you should be pretty good, but I wasn't. But you should be. But, even comparing myself to 40 or 45 years old, man, I'm much better now. I mean, I hear people, say, hey, I was better at this time or that time, but I really think I'm going to keep getting better. And the one thing I run into is, one of my training partners, he's a young guy, 22-year-old guy. And, I used to beat the crap out of him and when he was 19, and he just keeps getting better and better. And now I'm running into him. And even though I have so much trouble with him now, and it's not like I used to be, I know that I haven't gotten worse. It's just, he's a young guy. He's just hit his potential, but some days it can bring me down. I'm like, man, I just ain't the same as I was. And it's like, no, I'm actually better than I was. It's just that, this guy is, moving on a curve much higher than I am and getting better. And so, I still know I'm getting better, even though, I am getting older.
Yeah, looking back at a fairly recent interview with Nick Grigoriadis, and I don't know the exact way he phrased it, but and he's my age, 37. As we get older, you look back, yeah, I'm better than I was, a couple years ago, and that's kind of what I feel about that as well. But could I beat this 22-year-old person in front of me who is a big tough blue belt? Yes, I'm going to beat that person. Could I beat that person 10 times in a row, with taking a 1 minute water break in between each round? Probably not. I mean, somewhere around 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there, his ability to recover between these rounds and just kind of wear me out is going to catch up with me. And that's kind of one thing with age. And I know Gary does a great job of taking care of his body, and that guy is fit. But eventually, that's something that they're bringing to the table, being younger and more athletic, that I can't hang with. And so, yes, one roll with basically anybody who's down several pegs on the skill level, I'm going to be fine. But if you start, okay, let's go again, and eventually it's like, man, I'm wearing out. This guy's finally getting warmed up, and then you get in trouble. I mean, not really trouble; it doesn't really matter. But that's where the difference is in, I think, the ages that both Gary and I are at. But eventually, Gary, when we get to be 65, 70, I don't know what age we'll be doing jiu-jitsu at. When we get up there, we won't be as good as we were 5 years ago. But I think we'll be still having a good time, and we'll still be on the mat with all these fun people, and it won't really matter. It's just You're out there having a good time. Yeah,
we just need a spot right next to the mat to park our wheelchair, and we'll be doing good.
Yeah. I'm going to have a walker, Gary.
Okay. Good for you.
With the tennis balls on it. Got it all planned. You got to have a plan. That's the main thing.
Got to have a plan. You got that right.
So comparing yourself to the younger you, I think generally speaking, if you're under, I don't know what the age is, 60 or 50, Gary's, whatever, but you should generally feel like, yeah, I'm better than I was last year. I think that's a pretty common feeling with most people who are grappling. You should be getting better. You should not be accumulating injuries at a rate that are detrimental to the way you're progressing as a grappler. That's another problem you might be having. You could evaluate. Yeah, it's not on. Me and Gary have like a little list of stuff here. You need to evaluate, why are you getting hurt? Why are, if you're getting injured in the same way all the time or with the same person, evaluate that. That could be a big deal.
Yeah, because if you're going to be off the mat, we're not going to get better. We're still can keep our mind into the game by thinking about it, by, looking at videos, by, watching practice, by coaching teammates. But we really need to be on that mat. Getting on that mat is going to make us better. And if we're getting hurt, we need to evaluate, find out what's wrong. And it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. I keep having reoccurring hamstring injuries, and that's why I keep talking to the expert, somebody in a gym, that is a personal trainer and knows kinesiology rehab really well, and he's been helping me out on it. And but it's because I want to stay on the mat. I realize that first of all, it makes me happy, but second of all, it's how I get better.
That is true, Gary. That's what you say, and that is how you get better, Gary.
Well, speaking of that, Byron, Your jiu-jitsu is really good. I just wanted to give you a compliment about your BJJ.
Thank you. Thanks for taking a look at it and saying it was good.
Yes. Byron, should you ever give yourself a compliment about your own BJJ?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we have in here. Give yourself a compliment about BJJ. Gary, here we go. We're just going to do this. Gary, what is something that you are good at on the mats?
I think I'm good at helping people out, especially newcomers. I think that's what I'm best at is, working with, people who haven't been training very long and, letting them have fun and, having fun myself.
That's very, very, I agree. Gary, you're very good at that. Gary, from a technique and performance standpoint, what are you good at?
Technique, I think I'm very good. I think I'm good with Kimuras. I think I'm good with, leg locks, especially a straight ankle lock. Thank you, Rolly Delgado. I think I'm good at escaping with an underhook. Those are, things that I think I'm really pretty good at.
Yeah. And it sounds weird like we have on here, give yourself a comment about your BJJ. It's a weird thing, but really if you had to pick something and say, I'm good at this, I'm good at guillotines. Arm in, arm out. I feel confident with those.
Armless.
And they always end up headless by the end of it. But yeah, I'm good at passing the guard on both sides. That's something that I think is a strong suit. So I'm not trying to make us brag about it, but if you're actually going to say something like that, you have to feel it too. And sure, there are tons of people who I couldn't guillotine to save my life, and that doesn't matter. But
the headless horseman.
If you were to actually give yourself a compliment, and for people sometimes that's hard. And talked about that in the Rolly interview, that receiving compliments can be difficult. But if you were to give yourself one, what would it be? And that's really your inner you saying, you're good at this. And that's a kind of a quick way to evaluate your game. Just give yourself a compliment about your jiu-jitsu. Another thing that looking at your game, some people have very deep and narrow games, and some people have very wide but shallow games. Gary, you like the inflections?
I didn't even notice it, Byron. I didn't even notice anything.
It's very natural. No, but some people have a very deep and narrow game where in that narrow set of techniques, they're extremely knowledgeable about them. And some people have a wide but shallow game where they know a ton of stuff, but the actual knowledge and ability in those particular things is pretty shallow. So if you're a creek, which type of a creek or stream would be better to perform jiu-jitsu?
Well, if you were deep, you would have better places to stay out of the sun, and the water would be a little bit cooler.
Ooh.
And but if it's a shallow, it might be easier for bears to catch you while you're, going through the rapids.
There you go.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you summed that one up perfect, Gary. I'm always worried about
that
bear
actually made
attacks.
No sense.
Always worried about bear attacks. No, I think there's a place for both of them. I mean, for coaches, you need to have a fairly wide knowledge base because you're going to be dealing with students that have needs in areas. You need to be able to teach outside of your specialties, and that's an important thing. But for competitors and people who want to perform well on the mats, being very good at a set of techniques that may not be that wide is pretty important, to have like we were saying, like Gary's Kimura. His knowledge is deep. His ability to entries into that position, very deep. His ability to maintain that position, deep. He knows a lot about that stuff. So, Gary does have quite a few moves, but for his guard attacks, he doesn't try 1,000 techniques. He's going to Kimura me or possibly guillotine or sweep me. And so those are what I'm looking out for. So it's a fairly narrow set of things, but they're deep and they're very effective. Versus somebody who's you get in their guard and they're trying this, they're trying to scissor sweep, they're trying to roll you over, they're trying to a waiter sweep, then they try a triangle choke, and they're just kind of all over the place with things. That's wide, but it could also is oftentimes shallow as well. And I think maybe for a teacher, you need to have that wide thing, but for great performance, you need to have that game plan with deep knowledge and ability in a set of techniques.
But, even as a competitor, you do need to have that wide range of techniques.
Yeah.
You have to be exposed to them. I mean, I can't go into a tournament and never been exposed to a Barambola and somebody tries it. I mean, not that a Barambola is my move. It's something I don't even practice, but I do need to be exposed to it to, and like you said, my instructor needs to definitely let me know about it.
Yeah, and from a defensive point of view, you need to be aware of a ton of stuff. I mean, that's why competing is a very interesting thing, because you're going to run into – in a tournament, you're going to run into several people, and they're going to have way different games. And you might beat somebody who would just destroy the next person in line or up the bracket, and you can't beat that person, but you beat the other one. So sometimes games match up kind of interestingly and different, I guess. So, yeah. But now that we've kind of talked about how to evaluate your game and what kind of grappler you are, look at – this would be a good time to look at what kind of a grappler do you want to become? Like, what do you want to do with this in the future? What do you want to get good at? And you could look at this as a short-term thing or a long-term thing, and also look at, what has helped you get those gains in the past. Gary, what have been some things that have helped you get some pretty good gains in your past?
One thing is, just specializing. I think what would happen when I first started is I was just learning so much stuff, which, the wide and shallow, I guess, as you call it. But, I really needed to be exposed to stuff. But I never really got the move down. And I think, what happened is when I started specializing a little bit. And you were the one who first, and here you are, you're a guy who started 2 weeks after me. Just so everybody knows, I've been training longer than Byron. But here's a guy who started after me and was probably a white belt at this time, and we were just two white belts training and having a good time. But I remember you were one time you told me, it's like, man, Gary, why don't you spend like the next month working on a certain move? You told me that's what I do. You were working from the armbar from the guard and you got really good at it. And then me, if somebody tells me I need to work on it for a month, I'll be like, hey, I'll outdo you. I'll do it for 2 months. But so that's one thing that really helped me, hit short-term goals and, try to improve my game is I would just specialize on a move or a technique. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an offensive move. It could be, escaping an armbar. I'd put myself in a position where I was in an armbar and, try to hitchhike or escape or somehow get out of it. Or it could be, I want to work on Kimura. So, I'm going to pass guard. And I'm going to start digging for that underhook and, work for a Kimura from topside. But, that's kind of like a short-term goal for me. We have to have short-term, we have to have long-term goals. I know we've talked about goals before. You want to make them achievable, but not too easy. You don't want to, go overboard with a goal that you can never achieve because you're never going to be able to check it off. But, that's my short-term goal. And basically a whole bunch of short-term goals are going to turn into a long-term goal. So, let's say I want to work on, being a better offensive guard player. And it may start off with working on my triangle for the first month, working on Kimura for the next month, working on elevating a leg and, going from to an ashi to, working a leg attack. So, these small goals, after, let's say, 3 months and the fourth month, let's say, is guillotines, working from my guard, here after 4 months, I probably hit my long-term goal. I'm probably very much better, offensive guard attacking. So, I have my short-term goal, which is just working on that one particular movement. But my long-term goal is to become so much better offensively. And I'm going to add in a couple, short-term goals to make me a better offensive player in the long run.
There you go. A lot of stuff to take in. I think one of the big benefits for when you evaluate your game is you're better able to kind of look at yourself objectively and set those goals and have them be realistic things that you could do, but still challenging. And it's fine to go through, jiu-jitsu and just train every day and get a little bit better, and that's great. But if you look at what you're doing and you say, what am I doing really well? What can I do better? What am I getting caught in? Those sort of things. And you really break it down and figure out, yeah, I'm getting guillotined all the time because my posture is down, and half the people I roll with put me in guillotines. And yeah, I could work on getting better at escaping, but really the problem is poor posture. So just kind of looking at the big game plan and figuring out where you need to go next, I think is a big benefit to what you could do when you evaluate your grappling. And don't just rely on your coach to tell you you're doing a good job. Look at, how could I do better? What am I doing here? And that's what they say. You go to a tournament, you win, and you have a great time. And sometimes when you lose, it's a learning process. It's something that you should take back and say, what did I mess up on? And it's important to be able to win and still learn. Maybe you win, but you give up some points during the match. So how could I do better? Or maybe you didn't get all the points that you could have. Maybe you won 10-2 and you got a submission, but you would have had a few more points if you were able to hold the position a little bit longer. So what happened there? You should be able to learn from pretty much anytime you step on the mat and compete, or in reality, anytime you roll. But we're rolling so much that it's hard to just remember one specific thing. But if you actually lose or get tapped to something, that's a great time because it will stick in your head. You will think about it in the off-mat time. It will kind of bother you a little bit. Like, man, why did I get caught in that? And it seemed like it was so easy for him to catch me in this. What happened? And use that as like a fuel for your fire to understand what's going on, how did it happen, will it happen again, and how can I prevent it? And I think that's it's just part of the assessment process with how you're getting better.
You know what I thought was funny is I was thinking about, a long time ago in your career, you're talking about, evaluating or, don't just rely on your coach or, you got to do your own evaluating. But I remember way back in your career, I used to love going north-south and hooking up a Kimura. If you defended the Kimura, I'd look for an arm bar, but it was like my specialty way early in my career. And I remember you had a private with not your instructor, but another instructor one time. And you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to, I'm paying this guy, for an hour. I'm going to talk to him about how do I defend that? And I remember you were so upset and you told me that the guy looked at you and said, don't get put in that position.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed on that. He said, I do remember that. He said, don't get your guard passed. Yeah. Okay, that's true. That's great. But I'm up against a guy who just sliced and passed my guard. I don't mind that he taps me out. I just don't want to get Kimura and armbar from north-south. What can I do here? And I didn't get that. But
but what you did is, you evaluated yourself. You went back to the drawing board and figured it out yourself. And, it's basically what we've been talking about. A lot of times it's all up to us. And, that's what you did. You made it up to yourself, and it stopped working for me.
Yeah, well, and that's good advice. Don't get your guard passed. But in reality, I knew you were going to pass my guard. I knew you were going to work on this attack, and I wanted something. Even if it didn't work, I wanted to know that I was doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing because I didn't even know what I should be trying to do, and I didn't get that. And that was, so that shouldn't be. I wasn't a satisfied customer at that private lesson. I was like, walked away like, well, he didn't show me what I wanted, and he told me I have a problem and getting my guard pass. Someone's going to always pass my guard, but he did point out to me that the bigger problem at large was somebody was actually passing my guard. Fix that problem, and that was a problem. But could I fix that in a 10-minute? Here's how you get out of this technique. That's what I wanted, and sometimes you get a bigger lesson than you want. And I wanted a very small lesson specific to a particular problem I had, and I got a bigger lesson. Hey, don't get your guard passed. Yeah. So that's funny. I kind of forgotten about that, but yeah.
Yeah, but just when you were talking about that, it just reminded me of that day, and I remember you telling me about it, and I remember I was getting mad at you because, you're going behind my back and trying to figure out ways to stop my game. Yeah, thanks, Byron.
I gotta try.
I'd never do that to you.
I resulted to paying a person money to figure out how to not get beaten by Gary. That should be a compliment.
It's
Gary.
not very hard.
Well, the next step, Gary, and we've already kind of alluded to it, I pay somebody money to injure Gary off the mat.
Yep, we've talked about it before.
So, hoping it doesn't result to that, but we'll see.
Yeah, try not to do that one.
All right, well, I think that kind of wraps up what we have. I hope, I think there's a lot of value to evaluating your game. And not just going in every day and training. And I'm going to train super hard today. I'm going to train every day doing that. But look at what are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? Where are your problems? And I think that you could really make some pretty big gains with taking that analytical approach to your own jiu-jitsu and figure out what's going on. And to bring it up one more time, I guess the brand new audiobook, 6 Games for BJJ, they help your specific game. It's weird, but the way it's made, it's tailor-made to you get on the mat, you get yourself in positions where you're typically in, and then you do something a little bit different. And it helps you kind of learn about your own game and where it might go. And that's why I think it's kind of a pretty cool concept as far as being able to help you with your game. Everybody's game is different, but by playing these games, they help you kind of make that evaluation of your own game and your own jiu-jitsu plan and see where to take it next. So throwing in a second plug for that audiobook. You'll find a link to it in the show notes. It's at the same website that is holding and hosting our other audiobook, and we've had a lot of success with that. So just another plug there, but because I think it does fit in here nicely.
Yeah, it definitely fits in there. And like another plug, a way to make sure you get the show notes every week is join our email list. Just give us our email. We promise we won't spam your box. I think we should get on to our article of the week.
Sweet.
What we talked about today is self-help, evaluating yourself. And this one is from BJJ Self-Help. So, everything is just fitting together. So check out bjjselfhelp.com. This article is by Lucas Walker. Thanks for having this article, Lucas, from June 13, 2017. Help Yourself, Seminars for Rapid Improvement. Just about everybody who trains jiu-jitsu is going to, do a seminar sometime in his career, his or her career. It may be your school bringing somebody in. It may be another school in town, or you may travel. You may see one of your heroes, going to another school or another state, and you may travel out of state with a buddy or two to catch it. And, I hear two different things about seminars all the time. Somebody's always like, man, I learned so much, this was the greatest seminar ever. And then I hear somebody else say, man, we went over so many stuff. I forgot everything. And, it's like, if you forgot everything and you went to a seminar and you paid money for it and you forgot everything, you really got nothing out of it. And that's what Lucas is trying to do here. He's trying to help you get the most out of your hard-earned dollars for that seminar you're paying for, which in turn is going to make you a better jiu-jitsu player.
That's true. He kind of has these broken down into different tips. The first tip, I think, is a big deal. Come in ready to go and pick a good partner. So good night's sleep. If it's kind of near time to eat, have eaten with enough time to digest your food. Just be ready to go, and then pick that partner that's going to be somebody who's going to actually work with you, not distract you, not get you off topic, not show you the movie they just saw on YouTube. Get a partner that's going to be good for you to learn these techniques today.
Yep. I used to have a partner I trained with all the time, and we went to, seminars together. But, here I am. I'm, 5'10", 175 pounds. And this guy was, 6'1", 285 pounds. And in all reality, he wasn't a great partner for me to do a jiu-jitsu seminar with. So I would always try to pawn him off on somebody else so I could get the most out of my seminar.
In reality, though, Gary, you weren't probably a great partner for him either. I mean, you tried, and the two of you guys would try to be good partners for each other, but he needed somebody his own size to try these techniques with.
Yep. So what I would do is I would start talking to somebody around his size, and then I would just leave real quick, and I'd grab somebody else. So, because I, to be honest, I knew I wasn't going to get a lot out of it, and he's not either. It's going to be like working with a stuffed animal. Number 2, we talked about picking a good partner. So pick a good partner and stay focused during the technique demonstrations. And I know Byron was talking about this earlier, or episode or two ago, about stuff that coaches don't like. Which was not staying focused during the technique demonstration. So we've got a good partner, and now the seminaree, or how would we say that? The person giving a seminar, seminee.
Artificially inseminate.
So the instructor,
there you go. Well
seminar instructor, definitely pay attention. Don't forget to ask questions if stuff doesn't make sense. Don't just watch them. You don't get it. You don't understand anything, and then go back, and both you and your good partner are both like befuddled, not knowing what to do. So don't be afraid to ask questions, and I guarantee you your instructor's not going to be upset either. And I guarantee you that question you ask, other people are needing an answer to that too. So, don't forget to ask questions and stay focused.
Yeah, and that's one of the other tips is ask a question. And it's annoying sometimes if somebody just wants to talk and they kind of have to make up a question. But if somebody's like eating away at you, like, I don't understand why this is happening or why this even works, that's a great question. So, if you make it a point to ask a question every seminar, but you really don't have one, you have to make one up, probably not the best thing. But if you have a question that's in your head or in your mind, ask it.
Ask it.
That's what really, it helps everybody. It helps the other people in the class. It helps you. It helps the person. Imagine if you teach 10 seminars. Gary, you go around and teach your Kimura seminars. You're making a bunch of money. A big circuit. And every one of those seminars, they ask the same question. It's like, okay, I might as well start teaching it this way because they're going to ask the question. I might as well answer the question in the process and not have to ask that. Have my students ask me that.
Here's an example. Hey, Professor Byron, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Gary, you over there with the messed up haircut.
Yep. Hey, what's number 3?
Number 3, we skipped number 3 a little while ago, and it was drill with a purpose. Thanks for the question. And you ask number 3, drill with a purpose. So don't come into class, okay, we're gonna do this drill, and kind of piddle around. I think a lot of times seminars, that's a benefit that you're a little more motivated. You get somebody into the room that you're not used to. You don't want to go there and show them how lazy you are. You want to get in there and work hard and get a lot out of it and really have that purpose. So drill that way. It's okay to be working hard, and it helps. So drill with a purpose. If you get tired and you need to take a break, that's the reality of drilling hard. It's better I always respect the student who pushes themselves and like, man, I got to take a break, man. I'm going to throw up, or I just need. I'm to my limit. Versus a student who never gets there and they're doing the drills, but they're not pushing themselves. Always, find respect for the person who pushes themselves, even if it's not, if it's 10 minutes in and they're ready to quit. Like, man, he pushed himself to that point, and most people today aren't going to get to that point.
Definitely. Very true right there.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you, Gary, sitting over there with the funny-looking gi shorts, or what? I don't know. You made some. Thank you for the question.
Those are Dukes, Daisy Dukes, not gi shorts.
Daisy Dukes. Well, they look like they had been made out of gi. They're really baggy around the leg, and I think I could see more than I need to.
Well, most chicks tell me that.
What would be another one of these tips, Gary?
Well, be engaged with the material. And you know what I like about this part is he's talking about if the seminar presenter, which is the word we were trying to figure out earlier, is demonstrating the move and you get a chance to be the seminar demonstratee, the Yuki. So basically, if you get a chance to get armbar choked, do it. And it's going to hurt. But like Lucas says, you'll feel how they shift their weight, the pressure. You'll know more about the movement than anybody else. And I think back to a seminar I did with Justin Rader. And Justin, if you have never taken one of his seminars, definitely do it. But, Justin's got a great guillotine. And I didn't get to, he brought in his own guy, that he was, doing all the moves on. But, he asked everybody, it's like, hey, do you want to feel what my guillotine feels like? And most people didn't take him up on the offer. I jumped in a second. And, after he put that arm around my neck, I was like, oh boy. But, it was just, it was like a guillotine I never felt, Not that I didn't feel it. I don't mean it that way. I've never felt a guillotine that powerful. And I just remember I was like, holy. I guess I can't say the next word I wanted to say, but that guillotine was insane.
Gary, I'm going to go tell Justin Rader that you didn't even feel his guillotine and that you were unsatisfied.
Well, I'm just going to have him listen to this and he'll know what I meant. And then he'll be mad at you.
Number 6 here that he has on the list. Thank them after the seminar. So it sounds weird. Like, yeah, of course, they did a great job and thank you. But a lot of these people who go teach seminars all the time, they don't really get that like pat on the back. Hey, I learned a ton today. Tell them what you got out of it. And it really does kind of help the person. They're getting paid and they're an accomplished person in the jiu-jitsu world. But just to say, hey, thank you. I learned a lot today. Your details on how to finish Gary in a guillotine is going to help me for a long time. I could tell it's really going to fit in my game. And I really appreciate that. And that is just about being a good seminar-e.
Yep. Gary. Yep. And, we kind of go back to always talk about being happy. Don't worry, be happy. I guarantee you that person teaching the seminar, it means a lot to them. Somebody just comes up and just tells you what they got out of it. I mean, I know they're getting paid for it and, they want to make money, but, most of these people who do jiu-jitsu aren't doing it to get rich. And I can guarantee you a lot of those guys, it just means so much to have you come up and, say, hey, this helped me. And then, maybe even become a Facebook friend with that person. And let's say whatever they taught you is working the next month. Don't hesitate to, send out a Facebook post like, hey, Professor, this, what you taught me has really helped me. I've really seen a big improvement in my game. And Also, too, if you see that they have another seminar coming up, let's say you become a Facebook friend with them, and you see that they, post, hey, we got a seminar coming up in, let's say 4 states away, something you can't go to. Don't be afraid to post in there. Say, hey, I went to a seminar in, so-and-so state, and I learned so much, and it's helped my game. Pay that person back too that way. Especially somebody who gave such a great seminar.
Yeah, that's a great way to kind of help them on down the road. Especially, I mean, that's one thing about. Hopefully, they were a friendly and person that you really bonded with, and you want to see them do well. Well, you can actually help them besides just giving them the money for showing up and teaching. You could recommend them further down the road. And another thing he recommends here is take notes. And we've heard this repeatedly, but it really comes in with seminars because a lot of times there's so much information and it's foreign to what you have. And your instructor may not be that knowledgeable with it. Or maybe your classmates are like, man, this is all new to me. There's so much going on. Write some stuff down. And it makes it a little easier.
Makes a big difference. Number 8, and the last one, get your live repetitions in. And basically, I've got a great little example of this. Is the very first seminar I did with Rolly Delgado. He came and did a legal leg lock seminar. And I had a guy that I trained with who'd been training probably 4 or 5 months. Never once had put a gi on. He had just trained no gi. Didn't even have a gi. I had to loan him a gi. And never ever in his life had done a leg lock. But he just thought it was so cool that somebody he saw from The Ultimate Fighter was coming to town, and he's like, hey, can I come? And it's like, yeah. I knew he wouldn't know anybody at the gym, so I was going to be his partner. And he had never done a leg lock before. We looked around the room, and I remember he said, he's like, man, we're doing more repetitions than everybody. And, I thought that was great. We didn't talk that much. I don't think I've ever put more repetitions in. And it was probably a lot due to this guy that, was my training partner. He really just wanted to keep going over it and working on it. And, here's a brand new guy who's never done a leg lock before, has never been taught a leg lock before. And I just remember like the very next practice that he went to, he taps, somebody who'd been training longer with a straight ankle lock that he learned in just one 3-hour seminar. And the guy that he tapped, was a leg lock person. And I just remember I was like, man, and, you put so many repetitions in that day and you had no clue what you're doing. And, here, with a good seminar instructor and good live repetitions. But I think the best thing was he had a great training partner.
That's true. He did have a great training partner, and you kept reminding him about that.
Yep.
And that goes back to the first one, picking a good partner, because that person will help you remember the stuff the next day. They're going to be willing to do those reps with you. And, it's kind of tough to have a great seminar when you partner up with somebody who's not really wanting to work with you.
I can also tell a quick story about another seminar I attended, a legal leg lock seminar with Rolly Delgado.
Ooh. Did you get arrested?
No, but I wonder who my training partner was, my partner on that one.
I don't remember.
Oh, it was you, Byron.
I don't even remember if I attended that. Oh, it was me. It was so non-memorable by...
Oh, you turned that one on me quick.
Flippity floppity.
That was good.
No, go ahead, Gary. What were you going to say about this?
I'm embarrassed now. You don't even remember me.
Dang.
I'm a non-memorable guy.
Sure, it was going to be a great thing you were going to say.
No, not at all.
But I imagine Gary was going to say something like the first seminar, he had somebody who had never had a gi on. He had to let them borrow his gi. I was shocked, Gary. It sounded like you have 2 gis. That's impressive.
3.
And 3.
Thanks to Fuji.
And one to loan, and then one to wear, and then one to keep clean at the home. Yep. And so... great seminar with this guy, and then the next seminar, the illegal leg locks, another same quality instructor, great instruction. You partnered up with the wrong guy, and you didn't learn a darn thing because of that. Your partner kind of just brought it all down.
Yep.
Is that true?
Definitely. So definitely, one thing I can help you with in your jiu-jitsu advice and your relationship advice, pick a good partner.
Oh, nice.
Swipe left.
There you go. All right. Well, I don't even know what that means. I think it has something to do with
Tinder,
some app. I'm out of it, Gary. All right. Well, that wraps up the article. That was a little bit longer of an article, but that's okay.
Yep.
We learned a lot.
Speaking of a long article, definitely check out our social media. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier about the DVD reviews on YouTube. So check out BJJ Brick on YouTube. Check out BJJ Brick on Facebook. Our email, bjjbrick@gmail.com if you have any questions, and tell all your friends about it. Not just our podcast, but tell them about our YouTube, Facebook page, and, BJJ Brick on social media.
Yes, that is great. Also, what's great, we have a new Patreon supporter. His name is Greg Jaw. Thank you for stepping up. And as he was kind of saying in his email to us, it's like he's buying us a cup of coffee or a drink every week or every month or however. I don't know how much coffee costs, but he's pitching in per episode. He's like, yeah, that's worth $1 to help these guys out and support them. And it means a ton to us because in reality, as we get more and more people that do this, you're not buying us a cup of coffee anymore. You're really buying us a lot more ability to podcast at a higher level. We like to develop an app. We'd like to be able to make a trip sometime this year and go to a big jiu-jitsu event. And those things are a lot more likely to happen and helping us run the website and all. There's countless things. And financially, as we get more and more strength behind us, they become a lot easier. So the majority of people listen, and that's great. We're happy you're here and listening. A small percentage of them say, I want to help those people out, and I have to go through a few hurdles to do that. You have to go to the website. You have to put your name in and that sort of thing. And other than that, it's pretty easy. And Greg was one of those guys, and it means a ton to us, Greg, that you did that and that you're willing to support us in what we're doing here today. And also good news, we got our stickers in. So this is something I've been working on. The stickers are, have you ever seen our T-shirts that we never did really sell? We sold them locally because shipping is pretty annoying, and I don't want to deal with that, and Gary didn't want to deal with that. I really blame it all on Gary. But locally, we've had some T-shirts to give out. And so same design, made by Taylor. And I really like the sticker design. So it's easier to send out a sticker. So our Patreon supporters, those of you who have supported us in the past, I'll be remailing you out stickers. And you should be getting them pretty soon, if not already. If you move since you've signed up in Patreon, make sure your address is updated, and then send me an email at bjjbrick@gmail.com saying, hey, I'm a Patreon person, and I moved, and you probably already sent the stickers to the wrong address, but I'll resend out stickers to the correct place. I want to make sure you guys are taken care of because it does mean a lot to us. So if you're an active Patreon supporter on there, I'll be mailing you out stickers to get you caught up with what we're giving away with Patreon. New stuff, some changes with Patreon, so go check out what we've updated and changed on there. Gary, also, we've got lots of good news. So in addition to the Patreon supported team, Matt Tails.
Let's roll Matt Tails, Byron.
This is Matt Tales. We bring you amazing jiu-jitsu stories. The stories might be funny, unfortunate. It could be about an epic fail or an epic win. So sit back, my friend, relax, dry off your sweat from rolling, and enjoy Matt Tales.
On a normal training day, a new guy shows up for practice. I had never seen him before, but I could tell he had trained previously since my instructor knew him. We go through our normal class, warm up, drill, technique, and get ready for my favorite time, rolling. I pair up with the new guy for my first roll. We are enjoying a friendly roll, and about 30 seconds into the roll, I go for an arm drag and hear a blood-curdling scream from him as I finish the arm drag. Lo and behold, his arm pops out of socket. He screams for about 30 seconds, and then it pops back in all by itself. He looks at me, gives me a slap and a bump, and we start again. I'm thinking, this kid is tough to go right back to it. 30 seconds later, I hear another scream of pain and agony. This time it sounded more like a warthog getting eaten by a tiger. He screams for a good 30 seconds, and then it pops back in. I figured he would quit at this time. Much of the class had stopped rolling and started paying attention to this new student, and wondering what was happening to this guy. Between starting and stopping and his shoulder coming out of socket, soon the timer beeped. And that was the end of this horrific round of grappling. This is one of the most scary rounds I've ever had in my life. I then grabbed another partner and we started rolling. About 30 seconds later, I hear the scream, like someone's passing a large kidney stone. As usual, it goes on for about 30 seconds, and then a shoulder pops back in. The entire room had stopped grappling and just was staring at him in amazement. I go over to him and say, maybe he should quit for the day before you really hurt yourself. We don't want to be injuring ourselves as we're training. He took my advice that day and watched us roll. He has never been seen or heard on the mat again.
This has been Mat Tales. Some of the names and places may have changed. We may in fact have taken some creative liberties with the story. In order to keep Mat Tales going, we need more tales. Tales from listeners like you. Send your tales to bjjbrick@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing your amazing stories.
Oh, I can't imagine. That would be a frustrating role, to have somebody being constantly like accidentally injured, total shock, and then they're being ready to go again, and then bam again, screaming. How did he describe the screams? Like
one was like a warthog being attacked by a lion, and the other was by passing a large irregular shaped kidney stone.
Those
Not
sound
fun.
like, I haven't been to the zoo when a warthog was taken down by a lion, and I haven't had any stones. Knock on wood.
Yeah, you do. Well, no pun intended.
Yeah, that kind of came out wrong.
Yeah,
Much like a kidney stone.
came out sideways.
Man, that's probably my best. That was right there, Gary. Was my best 30 seconds of podcasting.
Boy, we're in trouble then.
All right. But yeah, thanks for the Mat Tales. We need more Mat Tales. So if you have a unique, crazy, or an epic win, or just a funny story that involves jiu-jitsu, type it up, send it to bjjbrick@gmail.com, and we'll turn it into a story like you just heard. It's that easy. We like to share it with everybody. A lot of people get to hear it and enjoy your story in a fun setting.
Bada boom, bada bing.
It's a wonderful thing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to say if you're in the Wichita, Kansas area, whether traveling by or just live here, and you want to train, we would love it. So send us that email, bjjbrick@gmail.com, or that message on Facebook, and we'll find a time that usually at least one of us could train with you, if not both. And we have kind of our schedules aren't off always, but sometimes we both get together and train with you. But if not, usually one of us can get it together, and that's Gary, and he'll take the hit and exposure of us being terrible grapplers. I like to hide in the shadows, and nobody knows how bad I actually am, Gary. But yeah, it's always fun to roll with the listeners.
We will fake injuries, so we don't have to get on the mat. We're good at that.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'd love to train with you, but I'm injured this time.
Yeah, sorry, I'm injured.
Gary snapped my neck in half, and my toes also broken. So, Gary, that being said, we started something new last episode, a word association, and it kind of was kind of funny, and we decided to try it again, and I wrote it down here. And I'm just going to throw a word out at you. You throw a word back, and we'll go back and forth until it is either not fun anymore or we have nothing.
Okay.
So are you ready for this, Gary?
I'm ready.
We talked about, the stream was wide or narrow or deep or whatever, and you mentioned getting attacked by bears. So I'm going to say bear.
Claw.
Face.
Nose.
Big nose.
Small nose.
Not me.
You got me.
Okay, I don't know. That one maybe not as fun as the last one, but yeah.
No.
Big nose was me, and I guess small nose is Gary.
Yeah, and then I lost it there. I'm sorry.
Well, it wasn't a single word. It was more of a small phrase I threw at you, so I apologize.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not very good at this.
But you can play along at home. Just pause it constantly throughout the stops, and that would be annoying.
That's what a lot of people do, is play along at home.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, or do this with your partner.
Partner in crime or partner? Or training
Well, it
partner?
could be either. Training partner in crime.
All right, partner. Stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to spam your box.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yep. Hey, definitely check out our email list. We have a link to it on the show notes. All we need is your email, and we will promise we will not spam your box.
Oh, dang. Oh. Okay. Hey, Gary,
Well,
don't make promises you can't keep, buddy.
That's a line for the bloopers.
Gary.
Here, let's just start the whole dang thing over again.